we don't expand our imagination.
Justification for being what you are.
Welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm John Dickerson. It's Election Day. Thank goodness. And the polls open around the country. Everyone expects a big night for Republicans. How did we get here, and how drastically will power shift in Washington? There are a number of tight races, and joining me now to break it all down is our favorite Mike Allen from Politico. Welcome, Mike.
John, happy Super Bowl. I feel like we should have chips, nachos here.
That's right. That's right. And we could open up a whole new round of metaphors because we've taken care of all the weather ones. We could get some sport metaphors in here to talk about tonight.
Boxing. We've done enough football.
Tell me, people have kind of gone out of control with the metaphors and the trying to capture this evening here. As we get closer to Election Day, things have kind of gotten out of hand in terms of the predictions, haven't they?
Yeah, well, on the metaphors, first it was a Category 4, then Category 5, then a tsunami. Nate Silver at the New York Times now calls it a meteor strike, which I think is well covers. The predictions have gotten crazy. Republicans need 40 seats to take the House. Politico playbook, final odds fixing 65 or more, so a big night. But you're hearing a pollster just told me 77. You're hearing high numbers, and here's why. John, there's 40 Republican seats that they'll definitely pick up. Then there's 40 more toss-ups, and they've all been trending Republican, and those don't even count the surprises. And a night like this, you get surprises.
Right, and that's in the House. What's your thinking on the Senate?
In the Senate, they probably still will fall just short, but if Joe Manchin winds up winning the Democratic governor now running for Senate in West Virginia, that probably means that they get the Senate. There's a rule of thumb among Republicans that we'll test. I don't endorse this. They're saying if they get 60 or more House seats, the Senate comes with it. Because it means there's just such a big wave that any turnout efforts or normal models don't apply.
Right, and we should throw in the historical fact that since World War II, every time one house is flipped, the other house is flipped along with it.
They have. Now, for Democrats, we're going to want to watch their veterans in the first couple time zones, because it could well be that their turnout efforts are more than we thought, and it could be that these polls have been polling the wrong voters. We just don't really know who's going to vote. 2008 was such an unusual year with all those new voters, minority voters, college student voters, that the polls could be totally out of whack.
Any veterans you're looking at, there's Rick Boucher, who won his last race. He was unopposed. I think he won 97%. Now he seems to be one of these veterans that might be in danger. Is there anybody else you're watching in particular?
There's a couple committee chairs that are in danger.
John Spratt in South Carolina would be one. Right.
Oberstar, and you've got a couple in early states, Kentucky, Indiana, and those will give you a real good sense. Like if Democrats win a couple that they're not supposed to, that's going to say, okay, the tulip craze went too far. That now it doesn't mean that Democrats are going to hold control, but it'll mean that it's a little bit more within the bounds of what we'd expected a few months ago. This has been an unusual election that almost all the momentum headed the Republicans' way. There weren't too many intervening events that said, here, we'll give the Democrats a break. But a smile for Democrats. It could be worse. 1932, the FDR landslide, 100 Republican seats lost.
Well, and we can go even further back to 1894. I think it was 130 Democratic seats lost. So if they start saying it's better, if they start saying it's better than 1894, you know it's going to be a really bad night. Let's talk about how you're going to spend the night, because as you say, you'll start with Indiana and Kentucky, and then what's the rest of the night look like for you in terms of what you're watching with all of these millions of races out there?
Yeah, just pick a couple of Senate races. If Democrats do a little better in Pennsylvania than it looked like, that's something to watch. What if the Delaware race winds up tight? We thought that the Republican there, the Tea Partier, would lose big, but if that's close, that's going to be another sign of a big Republican night. What if Connecticut, where Linda McMahon, the former World Wrestling executive, is supposed to do pretty badly? If that's tight, that's another sign that the rules don't apply, that there's just this big surge, that people are going in and they're voting R, not for a particular person.
Right. And now, if there is a big surge, President Obama scheduled his press conference tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You know how these things go. What do you expect the president to come out and say if it's a bad night for Democrats?
Yeah, he's going to start by saying that people were continuing to vote for change.
Right.
Too bad that's just when you have the big house. That's not so good. But he's going to say that people are frustrated. They're frustrated that special interests still have the role in Washington that they do, frustrated by the pace of recovery in the economy. And he's going to say he's frustrated by those things too. But he's going to say now is the time to work bipartisanly. The campaign is over and we have some things we can do together. So he's going to talk about some shared priorities, talk about spending cuts, and he could well say there have been a lot of Republicans running around talking about spending. Well, congratulations. Now you're in Congress. Good luck. It's harder from here than it is from there.
He gave a similarly themed speech in his State of the Union after the Scott Brown disaster in Massachusetts, which was supposed to be such a wake-up call.
No, that's smart. That's a good template. And I think a fair question for us to be asking Democrats in coming days is, did they underreact to Scott Brown? The same people told you that told me after the Republican victories for governor in Virginia and New Jersey. They said that didn't say a single thing about the national mood. Well, I guess that didn't turn out to be the case.
You're absolutely right. Let's go now and talk about John Boehner. He now is going to be a big deal. I was looking at a poll the other day that said 55% of the country doesn't even know who he is.
That might be good for him.
That might be good for him, but they're going to know who he is now. And what's his life going to be like? What tone does he have to strike?
Yeah, very early tonight. If Republicans wind up taking the House, and they think that they'll probably know around 10:30, could be a little later, but sometime around that, he's going to come out and say this is not a time for celebration. They know that there are enough Americans who are unemployed. They don't want people in Washington patting themselves on the back. That's one reason why the president's accomplishment message has never worked. So no self-congratulations. He's going to come out and say it's time that people started listening to the American people, and he said it's time to get to work. The three things that they're going to do early, they're going to right away focus on cutting spending, right away extending the Bush tax cuts, and the third thing, that even though it won't pass, to satisfy the people who put him in office, if he becomes Speaker Boehner, they're going to put a bill on the floor to repeal health care.
Interesting. He'll have to get the sequencing of that right, too, because you could envision a situation in which there's a big fight over repealing health care, and that's all anybody ever sees, instead of a discussion about spending and tax cuts, and we just reverse the situation.
No, that's a great point. They have not put out any timelines, and I didn't think about it, but I think that's exactly right.
So give me as a final question here, your sense of what happens to Washington. Let's say John Boehner is the Speaker in the House, and let's say, as everybody seems to be predicting, except for a few Republicans, that the House stays in Democratic hands. What happens? What's it look like?
Washington has the opportunity to work together. December 1st, the President's Deficit Commission is going to report that has both Republicans and Democrats on it. There are no signs that they're going to come through with anything revolutionary, but this gives the President a redo on his chance to work with the other side. Even though he traditionally has been gifted with that, he just could have done more. So this is a chance to do that. There's no sign that either side is going to change their stripe. They're already thinking about 2012. We're going to see the 2012 candidates start to ramp up. That puts a lot of pressure on, and that makes it very difficult for President Obama to do the sort of maneuvering that President Clinton did after he lost in 1994. People talk about that as if it were such a great thing, as if it were an obvious play for President Clinton. It was difficult for him then. It'll be even more difficult now.
Well, and I lied. That wasn't the last question. Here's another one. The relationship between President Clinton and Newt Gingrich was quite contentious. Lots of fighting, lots of brutal. Barack Obama, on the one hand, will be selling himself as a reuniter, as a bipartisan deal maker. On the other hand, the Clinton model, as you point out, is quite difficult and full of fighting. So it's a battle with Boehner.
No, that's a great point. And Boehner wants to be a pragmatist. That's his instinct. Right. He wants to be a George Mitchell-like, get-it-done figure. But the problem is, if he becomes a Speaker Boehner, it's going to be because he was elected by an electorate that includes a bunch of bomb throwers. So there's going to be this gravitational pull of his most conservative wing that's going to be a real challenge for him.
That's great. Mike Allen, thanks so much.
Good luck tonight.
We are hours away from the first results coming in, and CBS News has been hard at work to bring you the best coverage. We're going to go behind the scenes now from campaign 2010 election night. Take a look.
During election season, it is crazy at the CBS Evening News. All of our producers are running around. Researchers are pulling up research. Phones are ringing. It's chaos, but it's organized chaos, and it's exciting.
Hi everyone, it is Thursday night before E-Day, Election Day. The midterms are coming, and we've been covering covering it for them for some time, and we're getting ready to do a rehearsal through there. That's our big election studio. And, it's kind of involved technically, but we want to make sure everybody can hear everybody else, that all the systems are basically in order. And
we'll make sure that everybody who you need to hear, you can hear, and everybody you need to talk to can hear you. So we're going to go through a process where we check out.
This is Jerry Cipriano, who is our senior news editor and my good friend, and we work on the show every night together, and I couldn't do this without Jerry. To say the least. There's Jeff Greenfield, the one and only Jeff Greenfield. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
How are you?
Chat about something at some point.
Oh, you know what? I just wanted to sit down and talk. Just, with you for a half hour, just kind of pick your brain, get your thoughts, kind of tell you some of the subject areas from your pitches that I thought would be interesting to explore with you on election night. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Are you going to be around tomorrow?
After 1 o'clock I will be around.
Okay, maybe we can do that tomorrow. Anyway, so basically, it's going to be kind of a crazy, fun night where a lot of things are going to be happening. We're going to be broadcasting for an hour, and I'm going to be doing 1-minute updates on the hour. Then at 1 a.m. we'll be doing a special hour for the West Coast. And so we're all really excited about it. I think, when the election's approaching, whether it's a midterm or a presidential election, there's a certain amount of energy and excitement here in our newsroom. Rick Kaplan. Oh, come on.
Rick,
Say
come
Rick.
on.
No, don't be shy. Rick Kaplan, our executive producer. And
I wash your car.
very important person in this operation, to say the least. And Rick, we're very happy to have him back. He has some medical issues, and we're thrilled that he's here.
You excited about the first rehearsal?
It was insanity.
He was actually institutionalized for a while after working here. We just feel like this is our little institution.
You may have seen the movie about me, Green Mile.
But anyway, so
I think we're very excited about the first rehearsal and what we're going to be able to do, and I'm just really happy.
Oh, well, you can get a little clip video from the rehearsal itself and see us in action. Well, stay tuned for that, everybody. Whoa.
Hey, how's it going? My composition. Are you getting some good stuff?
The smartest thing to do is to go to it full screen to give you time to go down and hit the key, and then we can come to you here and you can play.
Okay.
I think that buys you cover.
It's not for me, so at least I get to do that. Oh, man.
As a first rehearsal, believe it or not, that was awesome.
And now we'll switch to me. We're going to close today with a look at my favorite campaign ads, the good, the bad, the ugly, in a series I call Damn Spot. The campaign is almost over, and you're about to get your airwaves back. No more grainy images of candidates, no more gong that goes off when jobs get shipped to China, and no more variations on bad pictures of Nancy Pelosi. But before we say goodbye to all of that, we'd like to take a look at our favorite ads from this election cycle. We must start, of course, with Christine O'Donnell. Despite coming into the race for Senate in Delaware with more video archive baggage than perhaps any other candidate, O'Donnell gave us a new piece of campaign lore.
I'm not a witch. I'm nothing you've heard. I'm you.
The ad was meant to acknowledge one of the controversies surrounding O'Donnell and by doing so, reintroduce her. She would later say that she didn't like the witch line, but her greatest moment of discomfort seems to come after she says,
I'm you.
And why not? Not only does inhabiting the form of everyone in her audience smack of witchcraft, she also has to accept that she's like this guy.
I'm you. America's a 300-pound bearded diabetic man.
The next ad comes from Jack Conway. He's the Democrat running for Senate in Kentucky against Republican Rand Paul.
Why was Rand Paul a member of a secret society that called the Holy Bible a hoax? The
Democrat is trying to stick Paul with the crazy behavior of his past, like the groovy Studio 54 mock turtleneck. It backfired. They love the mock turtleneck in Kentucky. Actually, Conway was roundly criticized for trying to use rumors about Paul's college days to cast him as an anti-Christian cult nut in order to scare away religious voters. In West Virginia, Joe Manchin was scared of losing. He sought refuge in the gun cabinet.
I'm Joe Manchin. I approve this ad because I'll always defend West Virginia. As your senator, I'll protect our Second Amendment rights. That's why the NRA endorsed me. I'll take on Washington and this administration to get the federal government off of our backs and out of our pockets. I'll cut federal spending, and I'll repeal the bad parts of Obamacare. I sued him.
The Democrat Manchin is running away from the president, and so hard to the right, he almost wound up in Maryland.
These policies coming out of D.C. right now, this fundamental transformation of America, well, a lot of women...
Sarah Palin likes shooting things, but not in this ad. It's as soft as a little bunny. It is also unspecific and masterful. By celebrating the everywoman, she becomes their leader.
It's kind of a mom awakening in the last year and a half, where women are rising up and saying, no, we've had enough already, because moms kind of just know when something's wrong.
If Sarah Palin does want to run for president in 2012, she'll need to capture a larger share of the women's vote than Republicans normally do. This ad makes a good start. What Palin does not want to have happen is find herself in a devastating ad like this next one run against California Senator Barbara Boxer, which shows how damaging a candidate's own words can be.
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
Yes,
it's just a thing. I worked so hard to get that title, so I'd appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Of course, when a candidate doesn't say something damning, you can just make stuff up about him. That's what Alan Grayson did in Florida, splicing his opponent's comments out of context in this next ad.
Religious fanatics try to take away our freedom in Afghanistan, in Iran, and right here in Central Florida.
Wives, submit yourself to your own husband.
Daniel Webster wants to impose his radical fundamentalism on us.
She should submit to me.
This was exactly the opposite of what Webster actually said.
I have a verse for my wife. I have verses for my wife. Don't pick the ones that say she should submit to me. That's in the Bible, but pick the ones that you're supposed to do.
Grayson was denounced by the fact-checkers, but that doesn't seem to bother politicians. They know that false attacks stick no matter how many people complain about it. In fact, in this election season, if somebody isn't denouncing you for something, you're probably not doing it right. Very messy office. That's it for Washington Unplugged. Join me back here tonight at 9 p.m. for a special election night edition. We'll have news and analysis from CBS News political team, plus Ariana Huffington, Jack Quinn, Bob Cusack, and Kelly Goff. I'm John Dickerson. Have a good day.